Hello, hello, and welcome back to Call Your Coven, practical advice for nonsensical times. My name is Bee, my pronouns are she, her, and typically I am your resident numerologist.
Not
My name
today.
is
Oh, I guess today too. We are talking, I'm your resident numerologist.
Mom. And my name is Gina. My pronouns are also she, her, and I am the resident astrologer.
And my name is Meg. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm the resident tarot reader.
This snafu does make me think that at some point we should just trade roles
Sure.
and do
No,
something. Oh, okay.
no.
Mercury versus Saturn. Why not? Absolutely not.
You two can trade roles.
Yeah,
I
that's
will
it.
not.
This is the only role I could maybe bullshit my way through. I couldn't pretend to be an astrologer. Absolutely not.
See, that's why I think it would be fun. I think Gina has to be the numerologist. Oh
No.
no. Then that makes me the tarot reader. That's too easy.
Well, that's the thing. All of you read tarot, so like anybody could be the tarot reader.
Okay, well, scrap it. That was just a Jupiter idea over here.
We're
All
doing
right,
great.
but today we are using our actual modalities
Mhm.
to talk about love and synastry and all things that feel topically relevant in this Valentine's Day 2 month of February. And I think this conversation is interesting because it does have some parallels to our ethics conversation
Mhm.
that we had in January, because I feel like there is a lot of murkiness in terms of, how can we divine anything about love and relationships out of a numerology or an astrology chart or a tarot reading? And then, especially if other people are involved, we have this free will piece of it. We have this, are there parties who are not consenting to this reading piece of it? But then also, just on the surface, I think what we can and cannot find within a chart is interesting to me, at least. So I'm excited to talk about it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think I'm personally excited to talk about what we can find out of it,
Mhm.
because I do think there are things we can look at.
Yeah, I will offer as the astrologer. I think there are two very wildly different frameworks to be approaching love and synastry through. And the one that it sounds like you're basically articulating, that I know that you're articulating because we've discussed this at not ad nauseum. But the one that I do think that astrology can be so informative and so useful is when we are looking to our chart, our beloved's chart. Synastry is also not just romantic relationships. Like you can get a lot out of like doing parent-child relationships with synastry. Like there's a lot of ways to compare charts to better understand how those are intersecting and where your friction points are and where your points of agreement are. But that's the thing. Like I think that charts are really fun to look at for love and synastry when our goal is to better understand ourselves, better understand our patterns, and also better understand our partner. Where I think this falls apart both ethically and just in practice really quickly. And I say this as someone who literally wrote a fuck ton of content for an astrology dating app. Um, is when people try to use astrology, especially to be like, I'll never date a Cancer sun, I'll never date a Capricorn moon, like, and when they're trying to use a chart and they're trying to use certain placements to essentially predict their way out of pain
Hmm.
and predict their way out of like and use signs and placements as arbitrary guardrails to try to put them in a better position. And it's like no one is no one placement is ever going to tell you the whole story of how a person lives their chart. And I think that so much of astrology love stuff that I see is coming out of a desire to like hack or avoid the drama of dating or like, shortcut your way to success in a relationship. And it's like, you can't do that. You gotta just be a human with another human. Like, um, I really don't like the idea that certain signs or placements are inherently more compatible because I have just seen in practice how what's nice in theory is rarely what happens in application. Yeah, I'll stop there. I'll get off my little soapbox.
That's a great soapbox. I also, though, everybody should want to date a Cancer sun. That's like mommy
I'm
energy.
I'm like, B is obviously our Cancer sun. I'm obviously the Capricorn moon. Like our people have many. Meg's entire big three get maligned.
Yeah, nobody likes my big three. I'm a Scorpio sun, Leo moon, Gemini rising. And I think those are the big three that get the most hate,
Yeah.
just generically. Like,
Yes.
so yeah, on paper,
I think that's pretty indisputable. Like
I
every
think
sign
so.
gets a bad rap for something, but those three get
They
a
just
lot of
love to hate
shit.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like to use, I wonder if we might start with the fact that, and also by way of incorporating our modalities, that B, you have done a couples reading for me and Meg. And you did it before, like well before we had the podcast.
Yeah, like years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
like
was,
years and years ago. But so I
yeah.
also like I think want to come at this from the like empathetic point of view that like Meg and I have literally sought you out for a reading together.
For this.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I was super excited to read for you at the time, and it was a new reading
Mhm.
that I've done a couple times now, but it was called The Joint Effort, and it
Mhm.
was a Synastry reading. And I just was really curious how I could use numerology to tap into certain things. And I'm glad that you brought up outside of romance because when I first conceived it, and it's always been this way, like this is for collaborators, this is for partners, this is for friends, this is
Yeah.
for romantic partners, colleagues, family members, what have you, because I do think that relationship is so much larger an umbrella than just romance, although that is what a lot of people do come to these modalities, wanting to know. And that reading ended up, and I can talk about like there's the marriage number, and there are like certain numbers that might quote unquote go better together, which is kind of what you're talking about in the
Yeah.
astrology. But what I decided to zero in on for these readings was a tool called the Magic Square, which most people who have been following my work for a while will probably be familiar with it, at least in conceptually. But it is a 3 by 3 grid that has columns and rows of numbers. And so it really is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you plug your birthday and then the digits of your birthday into the chart wherever they go. And then you can read the chart in a ton of different ways. And one of the ways that you can read the chart is by qualities of energy. And that one was really interesting for me when I was thinking about people and relationships, because the 3 qualities of energy are practical or physical, practical or, what's the word I'm looking for? Who cares? Let's keep it at practical. Then the middle is emotional, and then the top line is mental or logical. And I thought those were so interesting when I started doing my chart and my now wife's chart, because while we have a lot of the same, my wife and I share a birthday. So we share a public persona number, we share yearly cycle numbers, and our astrology charts are also kind of spooky. So there's a lot to look at there. But I was curious because our birthdays are like same, but different. I was like, oh, how does this actually switch it up if we're looking at like what energy we both run? So like, for example, if you run a lot of practical energy, and so you're always kind of coming at things from a pragmatic standpoint of like what makes sense, boots on the ground, but your partner runs a ton of emotional energy and they're always questioning how this is going to feel. Maybe they're having bigger emotional responses to things that you're like, what are we doing here? That's just, it's not saying that you can't meet each other. It actually is saying once you know how your partner runs energy, then you can shift things in relationship to meet you both where you are. So
Mhm.
it's not that your pragmatist partner is cold and unfeeling and doesn't care about your emotions or where they're coming from. It just means that that's not how they are approaching things. And, vice versa. It doesn't mean that your emotional partner, which I run so much emotional energy, but like we're not out to lunch, or we're not like lost in the well. It's like truly is there are just ways to work around that. So
I think
that's
that
my
is
first
the
tool.
Yeah, I think that really is though and Meg, I want to ask about tarot in a minute because I know that that is obviously a different kind
Yeah,
of
it's such a
approach as
different thing. I
well.
love this conversation. Please keep going.
But like with coming to your charts, I love the way you frame that, B, and also I think it applies just as much to an astrological synastry reading, which I usually I have never done them professionally. When folks inquire with me, I always refer them to my dear friend Mecca Woods, who does wonderful synastry readings. Also, occasionally, I had a Venus reading from her like 10 years ago that
Ooh.
really helped me put language to certain things that helped me to eventually leave the long-term partnership I was in. It was but that's the piece of it, is like it's giving language for what you do, for what your partner does, for what your defaults are, for what your like favored operating mode is, like, and in giving language, it's not the idea that, oh, these things are different, ergo, they must be incompatible. Why would you ever put a Leo moon with a Capricorn moon? Me and Meg. But instead, it's like, oh, if I understand these are the qualities that a Leo moon needs. These are the qualities that a Capricorn moon needs. This is how you express love. This is how you express love. And obviously there are a lot of different modalities for therapy, like learning love languages, as bullshit as that is, like it's evangelical, don't do it. But all these different things that can help people put language to that. Like I think that is where astrology and numerology with synastry are at their best, is
Mhm.
like giving you language to better understand and consequently like helping to give you strategies to meet each other in the middle. And that's all life fucking is, though. It's like, and I think it's in the name of the reading that you do. Joint effort. It's a joint fucking effort. Like you have to. I don't want to like perpetuate the all relationships are work narrative, because that's what I was raised on. And then I was like, oh well, marriage is hard work when I was married to a man. And now I'm like, oh, marriage is actually very easy when you're with someone you like. Wow, change. But like the idea that like there's still a certain amount of work that is involved, and again, like magic, occultism aren't going to help you just shortcut the work and the process of figuring all of that out.
Yeah. I do have a lot of empathy for that. Like I have so much empathy for anyone, I mean, me included, in my early 20s, like flipping cards, being like, when am I gonna meet the love of my life?
Yeah.
Like, I just have so much empathy for that. And also, yeah, it's just like it that's why I think if we can start to think about relationships outside of romance, that we can actually see more of the reality of what a romantic relationship will look like.
Yeah.
Because think about your best friend. Like, you still have to call that person on the phone. You still have to show up for that person when they are not doing well. If you have a day in, day out relationship, you're going through the mundanity and all of the frustrations and all of the, like every relationship does take effort. And I think that, yeah, obviously the old ball and chain, work stuff, I think the straights are just not okay. But
Are
Definitely
not
not. They're
okay.
not well.
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that's where like a lot of that shitty languaging around relationships comes from.
Mhm.
But yeah, relational shit takes effort, and it
Yeah.
does take a lot of navigating, even
Yeah.
in the best relationships.
And I want to kind of pull in tarot here and ask Meg for your, because I feel like as much as astrology and numerology can have the default like approach that people, especially when they're just learning or discovering these modalities, and like I did that too, years ago, like have the, oh, am I compatible with this person or this person? Oh, what signs go together? I feel like that looks a little different in tarot, but love readings are like, I feel like the bane of so many people's existence, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few different pieces, but I feel like what we're talking about when it comes to synastry and charts and like assurance is kind of what people are also often looking for from tarot readings. It's that certainty piece. It's what we were talking so much about in the ethics and prediction episode. It's like people want certainty. They want to feel like there's some kind of guarantee of success, which in the realm of relationships, I guess, is like happiness, fulfillment, and not having to work very hard. And so, which I mean, okay, sure, but like, the idea of a relationship is that you're like continuing to grow together and you meet together and you keep choosing each other and you're like evolving and discovering things together and like for as long as that makes sense, you know? And I think there are plenty of people who are like, I want the one and done. I want to find the one and I want to never have to like be on the market again. All the shitty language around that. I never want to have to find another person. I never want to be out there again. And I get that. Listen, I'm a serial monogamist, I guess. Like I've been married twice. I've been in like very long-term relationships. I like being in a relationship. My chart ruler is in my seventh house. I like being in a relationship. But I think that like where we get to, and this is just going to be a rant about relationships for a second, but I think we get to that place where like, as someone who was divorced, who broke up a relationship after 13 years because it wasn't actually working for either of us, it's like, I didn't feel like that marriage was a failure because it ended. I felt like we learned a lot. We grew together. We figured out what we needed from each other. And eventually we realized, oh, we both are moving in different directions. We want different things. Let's set each other free from this expectation that we're together forever and instead allow ourselves to go pursue the kinds of lives that we both want. And now we're both married to different people living very different lives. I am still in the city that I love in New York, and he has a house and a baby and a wife in a different place, like much closer to his family. And that's what he wanted, you know? And so even like though I did the, you know, married this guy I met in college and we were together for a really long time and on paper it was like, oh, you found the one or whatever. There was no, the certainty piece of it, I think, is just this like thread that gets too prioritized. And I think there's that sense too of like wanting the synastry, like I want to know that this relationship is going to work out, or I want to know that I'm going to keep getting chosen regardless of what I might do. And so I think to bring it back to tarot specifically, a lot of the tarot readings that I don't do a lot of love readings. I generally send people to other people because I don't enjoy them for other reasons that we can get into in a minute. But most of the time the love readings are looking for certainty. Like, are they going to come back? How does this person feel about me? Are they, you know, things fell apart. Are we going to be able to fix it? And the other version of it is like, when am I going to get married? Am I ever going to fall in love? What's wrong with me that I haven't fallen in love yet? And there are ways to approach those questions, I think, with a lot of compassion, because often the question underneath that is like, what am I doing wrong? Or what's missing from me that no one wants me? Or what can I do to control the situation and get this person that I've decided is right for me back, even though if they wanted to be with you, you'd probably know it. It's hard. It's a hard, tender thing to navigate, and I think love readings are one of the most popular readings that people go to professionals to ask for. And I very early on realized that I didn't want to do them because I don't do them for myself either. It just doesn't align with my ethos or my philosophy. But you both read tarot as well, so
I want to jump in really quick because I appreciate you bringing this up because like my first ever tarot reading that I got from a professional at this like seedy office in downtown Boston was ultimately a love reading that I
yeah.
was looking for because I had ended things in a very complicated relationship with my at the time best friend who I was in love with, and this was after I left my marriage, and you know, and I remember, I mean, I will always, I literally wrote about this reading in my memoir because, like, I will remember it forever because the reader, she had such compassion and such empathy and also helped use the tarot in a way that then got me even more into tarot because, yeah, she didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, which was, yes, she loves you. Yes, you guys are get back together. You'll be together. You know, of course, I like wanted to hear those things. And she, you know, was so compassionate with like, these are the cards that came up, a lot of majors, but like no love cards, as it were. But like, she used tarot and and reframed some of my questions in really thoughtful ways to support my own agency, my own sense of agency, my own pursuit of like self-worth after leaving the church. Like she really helped to, and I think that is so much of the work that readers and occultists do, is the redirection. Like you're
Mhm.
coming for
Like, what
this,
do you actually want to
what do you
know?
actually want? And like even, obviously like, and ultimately she wasn't telling me anything I didn't know. Like I
Yeah.
knew that
We
things
rarely do.
I knew that things weren't going to work out with this individual. Like I was very aware of that. I was just hopeful and a little naive. And but she did give me tremendous language and confidence to like start to figure things out on my own. And I left feeling so much more, to the word that you used, Meg, like assured. I left feel that even though this situation like wasn't going to be the answer, that like I still had resources within myself. And that was, I don't know, it was just like one of the most powerful readings I've ever gotten. I think in part because it was also the first. So like, it's very imprinted in my brain. Um yeah. Yeah.
No, I love that. And B, I want to hear what you say. What blah, blah, blah. I want to hear what you have to say about this, but I also just want to affirm that I don't think there's anything wrong with doing love readings, no matter what the
Oh
context
yeah.
is. I feel
Yeah.
like I often sound kind of judgmental when I talk about them, and I don't want that to be kind of how it feels, because I think that it's such a tender thing, and it is also something that most people want in some format or another, like whether you're looking for romantic love or friendships or community or collaborators or creative partners or whatever. Like, most people want love in some form or another, or in many forms. And so I don't think it's like a bad thing or a silly thing or a frivolous thing. Far from it. I think the
Again,
reason
we
that I
literally got a couples reading with
yeah,
B
like
years
I have gotten
ago.
couples
Like,
readings like, yeah, I think they can be really, really useful.
yeah.
And I have done lots of readings about friendships and navigating
Mm.
relationships in that way, but they're rarely like, will this person choose me? And I try to redirect it to be much more, okay, what about this person and me is disconnected? Or like, what could I do to like repair whatever I've screwed up? Or like, what's something I can do to like soothe myself right now? It's usually about taking on some agency and unpacking things from my side, rather than a more predictive, like, when's it going to work out kind of thing.
Yeah. When you both were talking, I was just thinking about the like love readings I've done outside,
Mm.
like in tarot, outside of.
Mhm.
Yes,
Awesome. Mark your Republican husband.
Please,
The
please.
YouTube people are seeing the sticker on my water bottle.
it's
This doesn't
amazing.
apply to you if you have a Republican husband. Leave
Mhm.
his ass.
Yup.
Sorry, B. Please.
No, I mean that's what the tarot would say too.
It is.
I'm
We're better off
thinking about
alone.
like love readings, and so I do video, like async video readings, and
Mhm.
these ones are funny because if you're in conversation with someone, you're doing a live reading. I feel like the redirect method is much more natural. Like you're talking with the person, you're getting to tease things out, you're saying like, how does this feel for you if we ask this? I feel like when people send me async questions, I do actually try and read from that place of from that question, and then it's a little bit of a bait and switch because then I always I am very honest about what is coming through my channel and what I'm reading in the cards, regardless of kind of what you asked me. And so I do find that a lot of times when I'm reading for love, I'll start with um a very honest human question that people ask. And then ultimately, by the end of it, it will have turned into, well, here are the things you need to work on before what you want is going to be possible for you. And that's not to say that I believe you have to like love yourself before you can love someone else. I actually think that's really bullshit. And I
Yeah.
think that find me a person who's going to be able to be the same in their relationship through years and years and years and like hardship. So I think that you very much were growing in our relationships, and like Meg said about your marriage, like that was not a failure of a relationship. That was years of growing alongside of a person, and how dare anyone not call that a success, like at the
Yeah,
end of the day.
totally.
So yeah, the other thing that keeps coming to mind, sorry, I feel like I'm bouncing around a lot, but
No,
No,
you're
I
good.
think there's lots of things that we're talking about simultaneously, and I think they all matter. So,
yeah, but Gina said the like what looks good on paper rarely
Mhm.
plays out in the same way.
Yeah.
And I actually do kind of want to use myself and my marriage as an example.
Yeah.
So my wife and I have the same birthday. We have this some similar chart placements.
Different
We
years for listeners, just
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry. We were born, okay, but we were born 12 years apart. So we have the same Chinese zodiac sign as well. So this is why I'm saying, like, it's very weird. It's very weird on paper. Like, same day and month of birth, 12 years apart. I'm a Sag rising, she's a Gemini rising. So our charts are exactly flipped, like in terms of the house system. So that also is very strange. Um, I also have my Cancer, Sun, and Venus in, depending on how you read, like what system you're reading, in my seventh house of partnership. And I married a Cancer Sun, like a fellow Cancer Sun. So, all this to say, like on paper, I have had astrologists say, like, hey, this is a fated relationship. And like, looking at our charts and like when we've made certain moves and decisions in our relationship, it was all like when things were being highlighted, things I don't understand, so I can't say them to you. I should
Oh,
be the astrologer when we switch it up.
you should absolutely be the astrologer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But essentially, I just want to say, like, on paper, I am in a relationship that I have received a lot of assurance from
Mhm.
others and from my chart that this is a relationship to be in. But that does not mean that it has been easy. I mean, my wife and I fight like cats and dogs. We love each other. We've agreed that in our personal 6 year, we're going to spend just as much time making up as we do fighting. Okay, the joint effort.
Love it.
Okay, but
Mhm.
and like we also have been through huge hardships and challenges in our whole marriage, but definitely in the last few years that like again, even though it's spooky, I would not wish this experience on my worst enemy. So, all that to say, like, you can be in a relationship that is capital F fated, and yet it does not mean you're going to have an easy life. Like, it actually doesn't mean anything. So, I don't know.
No, the reason I appreciate you sharing that, B.
Yeah.
And I mean the reason I feel so strongly about this is because the signs that everyone puts my kind of chart with, incidentally, is my ex-husband. The most, if you want to talk the most technically astrologically compatible chart I've ever had. And I should also say with astrology there are multiple kinds of this reading. So synastry, which we're largely talking about, is like laying the charts over one another and seeing how they map, and how you'll each map onto each other's chart depending on the rising sign. There's also something with astrology called a composite chart, which is when you basically combine and your charts mathematically to basically have the midpoint of everything. It's very mathematical and technical, and I don't get a lot out of composite charts personally. I prefer synastry if that's what we're like doing for relationship stuff. But just to flag that for folks who may not know or who are waiting for me to mention composite charts, there that's on now on your bingo card
She
pick
did it.
for this episode.
She did it.
But yeah, I think part of the reason I feel so passionately and probably like what's the word? I'm blanking. Like disproportionately loud about compatibility isn't everything is because like, my ex-husband's a Virgo and he had his Venus in my seventh and like all of these kinds of like placements that on paper you would look at and go, "Oh, that's so beautiful." Like da 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 da. And meanwhile like even barring the fact that I'm not straight, like, and don't like men, uh, it was a very abusive relationship. And so, again, it's like the astrology is not, it's just like the placement tells you a lot about how you can show up, but you've still got to have that conversation. And I think that the Meg and I might, I mean, Personally, I have a lot of affection and a lot of history with different aspects of Meg's placement in Meg's chart. But if you just like map our stuff onto each other, Meg's moon is in my seventh. Which is cute because I'm an Aquarius rising, so my seventh is Leo, and the seventh is like the marriage partnership house, for folks listening. And so like that's cute. And we also both have, I think there's a lot of ease with the fact that we have the same Mercury placement. So we communicate in very similar ways. That is helpful. We are both air rising signs, and we both have air Venus signs as well. So like there's a lot of just kind of naturally like doing things in relatively similar or agreeable ways that easily make sense to each other. But like again,
It's fine.
and we were friends first, but like
Yeah.
it's a relationship, and we never had cancer at the same time, but have had different versions. Again, you and me, the way that you and Stacy are just like on a level of like,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have cancer at the same time too.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. Be careful what you wish for, guys. Like
Yeah.
soulmates,
Like
question
Jesus
mark.
Christ.
but it's like, I don't know. It's very, I don't know. Ultimately, like I look at both of our charts all the time, and I'm
Yeah.
checking what transits we're having. And that to me is how, because I'm curious also to ask you both, like, how do you guys use these modalities for
Hmm.
your relationships? And at least like to speak for our marriage, I use astrology largely to just track what transits am I having? What transits is Meg having? Okay, Meg's in a bad mood. Where's the moon
What's
today?
going on?
How is this landing?
Mhm.
Like I'm mostly looking for that kind of thing, much
Yeah.
more so than
Yeah,
like
because we don't fight a lot, but we both work from home and we both work for ourselves and we live in New York, so there's only so much space to go around. So like it's more often that we'll be like, "Ooh, today feels kind of sticky," or like we're both kind of cranky today. And there's almost always something happening in the
yeah,
sky that's like, "Oh, okay, that's what's going on." Like, okay.
yeah.
But
Yeah, it would be cool if we
yeah.
could just be like, "Ooh, today feels sticky," and then have it not result in a interpersonal problem. But
I
we're
think
working
that
on it.
Yeah.
I think again though, it's just like how much also is it not like placement? It's just like how you are. Like I
Yeah.
tend historically, I'm a very loud fighter in relationships, but like years of exes and also the fact that Meg is not like and me raising my voice even a little bit, it's like a very activating thing. So like
Yeah.
we've learned, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna leave the house for a little while. Like like I'm like, whereas I grew up in a household that was very loud and very problematic and dysfunctional in a lot of ways, but like everyone in my family is a screamer, and Meg is the opposite of a
Yeah,
screamer,
I grew up
and
in the waspy without money, but like waspy vibes, like New England Baptist family. So we'd all sit quietly and eat dinner with no music and no conversation. Like
which is wild to
if
me.
there was tension, it's not, I don't think it's better, but it's just a different kind of, I'm very comfortable with quiet and I'm very used to if there is tension, it's like, well, we're probably not going to talk about it. And so, like, I have had to learn how to talk through conflict without sobbing the whole time just because it's so uncomfortable. And I have gotten a lot better about that over the years,
You
but like I wasn't like taught how to fight growing up, you know? Like I never learned it. It was very much like, oh no, you just bury those feelings all the way down and we never talk about it again. Which yeah, it's just a different kind of shit that you then have to figure out in your relationship. But that's not in my chart, I don't think. Maybe it is. I don't know.
No, again, that's like it's
But that
like
kind
the
of
way
shit's in
that
my chart.
the way you express the
Yeah.
energy vis-a-vis again, your epigenetics, your upbringing, your
Yeah.
health, your relationship history, how did your parents fight? How did they not fight? Like all of that goes into how it plays out. Because I
Yeah.
can see like a very different version where you've got a fire moon, you've got a
Yeah.
fire Mercury in your seventh. I can see a different world where someone with those placements is a very verbal
Mhm.
like fighter.
Yeah. I've
Um,
never seen my parents fight in my life. Not
yeah,
once.
wild. Again, though, like you said, not like better or worse, just like
Yeah.
different
It's
kind of
different.
fucked
It's
up.
super different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
Whereas
that's. Oh, go ahead.
I was just, this is not important, but I was gonna say, like, whereas when my sister and I are on the phone and Joe and I talk like at
Oh,
least
they're
once
so
a week
loud.
on the phone, Meg like we go to opposite ends of the house because Meg is like, I don't think you and your sister realize that you're both screaming at each other for two
Top
hours.
volume.
Like at top vol, and we don't because we grew up in again in a very loud house where you just
Yeah.
like anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's just like, I think these modalities are really good for what you already said, Gina, like giving language, but like understanding what you might be coming to the table with in a way that then you're like, oh wow, I didn't really notice that about myself, or oh yeah, that is right. But then the placement itself doesn't inherently mean
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Like it really does have to do with the context of the relationship that you're in.
And which
So
is
you
also
asked
why
about
I,
like, oh,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry, I'm being myself right now. I'm just like fucking interrupting, which I was going to say, which is
Yeah, you
also
should.
why I think looking at transits that you and your partner, your kid, your roommate, whoever are experiencing can also tell you a lot about what's sticky or like friction or uncomfortable. It's like it can tell you a lot about like what planet is getting activated, especially by like Mars or Saturn, like what, what is getting pinged. Is it more sense of self with the ascendant? Is it more that tender emotional underbelly with the moon? Is it their sense of like not feeling attractive? Like is their Venus getting hit? Like I feel like that can
What's happening to my Venus right now, Gina? Just
we we can do
Let's find
that.
out.
Right. But I think that those like that
I'm
is
with
like
you. I also don't
again,
feel great about myself. I see you.
I feel like the transits are very it can be really helpful to like point you in a direction, especially if your friend, partner, sister, child, whoever is like also like I don't want to talk about it. I don't want like, isn't feel or doesn't even maybe know themselves where it is. Anyway, just yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's so it is like using these tools as the weather report, like is actually super useful, I think,
Yeah.
in relational situations. Because again,
Yeah.
we're really kind of dialing in on the romance and we said we would do love. But this is also like if you have a frequent collaborator who is getting hit with a crazy transit and they're here, like that's helpful in how you're going to approach them, how you're going to receive their feedback, like so, yeah, like if we all knew our bosses' astrological charts, we could probably figure out how to like.
Actually, I did the first startup I worked at in New York was when I was really starting to get into astrology. And I wasn't doing it professionally yet, but we had whiteboard desks and I did everyone's chart on my team because at a really small startup, there's a lot of what you might call like intuitive, well, it's the culture fit, right? And I was like, oh, the culture fit for our team is everyone is either an Aquarius sun or Aquarius rising. Like our charts on our separate teams all had such wild like similar placements and I'm like, "Oh, that's culture fit is shitty and like really vague language for really shitty discrimination in a lot of ways, but it
Yeah.
also is like what person do I kind of intuitively fuck with? And when there are those points of connection, that can be really like yeah I will just never forget everyone on our team. Our boss was an Aquarius sun and everyone on the team had an Aquarius rising,
So funny.
which was it's funny but I'm
Yeah.
like oh of course like
Yeah.
yeah yeah
But then in an
Yeah.
instance when you maybe don't have someone's birth chart or their number chart or whatever, then you have tarot and you have tools like that where you can just ask a specific question. If
yeah
you're like, I don't have actually access to your transits, I don't know what's blowing up your Mars right now.
yeah
You can just ask questions like, what's going to help smooth over my work with this person today? Or
Mhm.
what's a way that I could take care of my relationship with this person today? Or, what's a way that I could show up for my partner today that's going to really support them in whatever they're doing? Like especially on days when I know that Gina's like dealing with stress or something, or is like going to be navigating something really challenging, or is just in a tough spot. Like those are really easy questions to ask the cards. How do I take care of my person today? How do I show up for my person today? How do I ease my person's stress today? Are there things I can do? And the tarot usually has some great suggestions. So
can that
Yeah.
kind of gets at the reading for other people or like
mhm.
like kind of some and it kind of pulls in the ethic piece. Like I wonder if you could tease that out a little more, Meg, about like the using the cards or whatever divinatory method to like check in on the nature of a relationship or how this person is doing or how they're feeling. Like how do you treat those kinds
Yeah.
of questions?
I mean, I probably take this way to the extreme, and I don't do anything that feels like, to me, it could be like considered surveillance or like an invasion
Yeah.
of privacy, which is to say I don't do readings to be like, how does Gina feel today? Or does
Mhm.
my wife still love me today? Or like I don't ask my cards shit like that,
Yeah,
because
I'll just ask
I
you, babe, you
yeah.
still love me, right?
But that's the thing,
Like
like if
twice
it's
a
a
day.
question that I
Don't
think you
ask
should,
Wendy, my magic 8 ball. She's a
don't ask Wendy
bitch.
Don't
shit.
ask Wendy.
She'll
Wendy's
tell you you're
me.
getting divorced and you've never been loved in your life.
But also, Wendy, you said Wendy has the soul of a diner waitress, which
She
means
does.
Wendy's a cunt. So,
She
like,
does. Mhm.
And we love her for it, but don't ask questions you don't want to know the answers to.
That's why we had to
Like,
stop working together last
yeah,
year because
exactly. Because she was
I
being too mean.
had no boundaries and she was like, "Your life's over. Sorry."
And the tarot will do that too. I find divination tools really will. They're like, if you ask stupid fucking questions, they're gonna start being mean to you. They're gonna be like, yeah, everything's bad. You're right. Actually, your whole life is garbage. Like, they will just start trolling you until you put them down.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think there's such a difference between, sorry, what I wanted to say, what I almost started saying and then didn't finish, is that I generally don't ask my cards questions that I think should actually just be conversations with the other person. Like, and there are instances, of course, where that maybe isn't possible. Like, is there something I could do for my partner that will help them feel safe enough to open up to me, for example? Or, you know what I mean? Some version of a question where it's like, okay, I'm trying to solve a problem with them in mind. But if it's like, how does this person feel about me? It's like, dude, just ask. Just ask, actually, like are they mad at me? I guess you could ask the cards, or you could literally go talk to the person that you're talking about. Like, and that's
Yeah.
generally my advice. Even if that's harder and scarier, it's also actually going to get you somewhere in your relationship, whether it's romantic or not. So yeah, I still tend to stick with the agency kind of thing. Like, what can I do? What's going to support this from my end? Like, what do I need right now? Or even like, why am I fixating on this? Like, why does
Mm.
this like relationship challenge, or this relationship that's over, actually, why am I still thinking about this? Like, what about this is stuck with me? What about this can't I let go of? What's something I can do to like set this to the side or say goodbye to this relationship in a like ritual way? Or, you know what I mean? But like, there's so many versions of questions like that I just feel like are infinitely more practical than like, what is this person feeling? Because I wouldn't want someone asking the tarot about me. I would want them to come talk to me. And that's generally how I think about it. I'm like, is this a question that I would feel weird if I knew someone was doing divination to try to find the answer to about me? Would I rather just let them talk to me about it? Is generally my
Yeah.
approach. But I think that's probably on the extreme. And it's not like I think that anyone who's not reading that way is like unethical or something. That's just what I feel comfortable with.
No, I think that's totally valid. And I think that ultimately the piece that you are encouraging people to do is, instead of going to the cards or spirit or whoever, like, just go to the person that you want to be in relationship with
Plus,
and communicate with them, which I think is obviously like, go to the source. But
yeah.
it's hard. It's hard, right? And it's
It is hard.
vulnerable. And
100%.
so that's why I said at the very top, like, I have so much empathy for
Yeah.
the experience of wanting to come to these modalities for this assuredness.
Mhm.
I have, and I'm really grateful for those questions, especially about the like, why can't I put this down? Like,
Yeah.
why am I fixated on this? Because a lot of people, in my experience, do come because they are in some kind of messy situation that they know they shouldn't be in,
Bless.
but they don't know how to get out of it. So I
Yeah.
actually am grateful for that
Yeah.
question because I
We've all
think
been
I'll
there.
be a better reader in the future. No, having
Yeah.
that awareness.
Yeah.
I have definitely pulled cards, and I always make it clear, like, this person is not in this reading. They have not consented to this reading, and
Yeah.
so therefore we will not be reading about them.
Yeah.
But I will ask, is there anything that about this other person's situation that is useful for the querent that I'm sitting in front of to know,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
so that they can move away from this, or so that they
Mhm.
can
Yeah.
feel more agency?
Mhm.
So I've asked, and will continue to do so, to be
Yeah.
honest, because I
I think it's a great
usually get
question.
pretty good results,
Mm.
asking for what is going to be helpful for my client to know.
Mhm.
Anything you can say about this other person's situation. And a
Yeah.
lot of the times, the answers that come through are like, very general, but they're like, ooh, they're just not available. Or
Yeah.
like, oh, they actually might have somebody else.
Hmm.
Or, and then it's like, I make it very clear to the querent, like, I know nothing about them. I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I
Yeah.
have asked what will be helpful for you to know.
Hmm.
And this is what's coming through. So then again, you might need to talk to them. You might need to, like,
Yeah.
there's always action and like agency related action after the fact.
Hmm.
Um, but that to say, I found quote unquote success or like a lot of support in asking about others in a way that still centers the client and
Yeah.
doesn't kind of creep into reading for another person. It's very much like, can you just give my client anything to go off of that will
Yeah.
be helpful, please?
I know. I think that's really wise, and I also think that's a really compassionate approach because it's like you're not I don't know. There's something I can't quite articulate here, but there's something about like the difference between like emotion and choice, you know? And like if we're just asking the cards, like, how does this person feel about me? Or does this person like into me? Are they attracted to me? Whatever. Because that's a question that sometimes I get asked to ask. Not really anymore, because I don't do ratings really publicly anymore. But if that's a question that comes up, it's like, okay, well, that is a question, I guess. And the cards might tell you, yeah, they actually have feelings for you. It doesn't mean they're going to do anything about it. It doesn't mean they want a relationship. It doesn't mean they want to make a move. It doesn't mean they're in a place where they feel like they can engage with this. Like it leaves the choice and agency on their part out of it entirely, leaving out the surveillance stuff and like the privacy stuff. It's like you still don't know what they're actually going to do with that information and how's that going to impact you. If you knew for sure that someone cared about you, are you going to make a move? Like, are you going to sit back and wait? Are you just going to like obsess about everything they do and hope they make a move? Like, that doesn't seem great. Like, you could still just talk to the person, you know? I don't know. It's just, it's just in there.
Yeah, it's just in there.
Yeah.
I think the just talk to someone is also just really good advice. And also, like, not taking, and this is where the ethics come in again, too, like with the power dynamic in a reading. Like, we're not taking someone's word as gospel, like, over your ability to be in charge of your own goddamn life. I think a lot about the fact, and this is a personal example, but it's also a little granular astrologically. So if you, the listener, do not follow it, that is fine. I have a 12th house sun, which I talk about a fair amount, but the astrologically savvy listeners will be like, Gina, you said your seventh house is Leo. So the ruler of your seventh is in your 12th. And do you know that everything I have ever read about a ruler of the seventh and the 12th is like, you'll be the mistress, you'll be the hidden thing on the side, or you'll be attracted to being in that kind, or your partner will be like hospitalized or in prison forever, or like it's all of this stuff about like hidden relationships and like because the 12th is a very hidden place, it's very secretive, it's where institutions like hospitals and prisons live. And so the ruler of the 7th and the 12th, I get so like when I'm not getting a personal reading, if I'm just reading something in a book or something online that's like, what does this placement mean, if I took that seriously, oh my God, I would have been like fucking destroyed, especially since my, like, a lot of people in my family, not to get too specific, but like there is a long history of very prominent infidelity, affairs, second families, like all that bullshit, like is very much in my like recent family line. And so I think I could have taken it as being a very deterministic, like, oh, this
Mhm.
means that like I'm destined to play out my grandmother's life and her mother's life and have
Yeah.
not, like, oh, this is a inherited thing. And I think that like, I write about that shit. Like I
Yeah.
write about it, but like, once I came out, like I very much have never done that. I'm like, I've never been someone's side piece since I came out. I was someone's side piece when I was married. And I had like that was my marriage was a very messy my marriage to my ex-husband was a very, very messy situation. But like since then, I'm like, it's partly why I'm so insistent on getting clarity, I think too, is because I'm like, I refuse to be hidden. I refuse
Hmm.
to be
Hmm.
like not your priority. And if I won't be your priority, we're just gonna part ways because I do not do that. Like I do not do casual very well. It's like one night stand or we're together forever and there is no in between. Um Anyway, yeah, so I feel also like when, if you're reading about your placements online or about your chart or what have you, or like what does this card mean? And you keep turning up kind of like the same fucking generic thing. Like it can also be worth it to go be personally like have your chart read or personally get your cards read for more of that context, because the general stuff can also frankly just like be really harmful. Yeah, sorry, that was a very long tangent, but yeah.
No, I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, I'm thinking about numerology and like other placements that can be helpful. So
Mhm.
obviously I talked about the magic square. You
Love the
can also
magic
think about,
square, and
Yeah, we gotta go back and read some reading.
we will link all of your stuff on that in the show notes
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
really
I
cool.
have a class, I have tons of classes at this point
Mhm.
where I go over the magic square. I'm wondering which one to link, but we will figure that out.
We'll figure it out. At least one of them
I
will
know
be
I
in the
talk
show
about it
notes.
somewhere. But and it's in my book as well.
Yeah.
But you can also think about qualities of energy once you know them. So 1, 4, and 7 are your practical numbers. 2, 5, and 8 are your emotional numbers. And 3, 6, and 9 are your mental numbers. So you can also bring that awareness into the yearly cycles, which are our current transits, and then also to your life path and your public persona. So if you know that your persona, which is relationships, are interesting because I think you have to look at both the what do I show up in public, like what is the mask that I'm wearing, what's my personality saying, and then also what is the longer path that I'm on. And for relationships to be long-term relationships to be successful, I think there does have to be some kind of understanding of both the immediate picture and the long-term picture, and numerology can really be helpful for that. So it is helpful to know if you're even personally, if your public persona, like what are the energies? Like for me, I'm 5 and 8. Those are both emotional numbers. Like I run nothing but emotional energy
Yeah.
in those placements.
I'm a 5 and 7, so emotional practical
Yeah.
mix. Yeah.
Yeah. Which then, like, okay, in the day to day, would you say emotional is like more of kind of what comes up? And then when you're actually making decisions
Yes.
for life in the long term, it's from a more
Practical.
like practical place. So that again, like, what's your reaction versus what's
Yeah.
your response? That's kind of an
Mm,
interesting way to think about those two
yeah.
placements. And then that of your partner or the person that you're interested in.
Meg, is your public persona
It's
6?
6. Yeah. So my life path is 11, but then of course I'm using 2, so it's 2
Yeah.
and
Oh
6.
yeah.
Yeah, because my public persona is 6.
So
So
mental and mental and emotional.
yeah.
Hmm.
That 11 piece also, like, you don't just make
Yeah.
decisions for yourself. You are like
Yeah.
making decisions for the larger community, like kind of
Yeah.
thinking about, no, I'm just going to read your chart for the
No,
rest of the
that's
day.
fine.
Yeah.
I know. I talk about my
Uh,
11 life path all the time because I think it's. I mean, we have talked about it because it's like the whole master number thing is gross. So then it's like you have to find out other ways to talk about it and figure out
yeah,
what
Yeah.
that means. But yeah, no, I find it very hard to make a decision just for myself. Like it's like I'm usually like, okay, well, how's this going to affect everybody else? Like, how's this going to affect my partner?
yeah,
How's this going to affect my friends? How's this going to affect my neighborhood? Like, yeah,
totally. Well, and
yeah.
then that yearly cycle is really interesting too, because
Mhm.
then we're cycling through all the numbers in a row over and over again. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, if you know that your partner is in an emotional year, then that might mean that they're going to be more reactive or have larger emotional responses to things than in other years. Like that's just useful information to have. Or if you're like, ooh, why all of a sudden is my partner not able to connect with me in this moment on like the emotional level? Oh, well, they're in a mental year. So maybe they're actually thinking about things in a different, maybe they're actually thinking about things, like maybe it's just coming from a different place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The other number that I will say, because I said it earlier, there is a calculation called the marriage number. I wrote
Mhm.
about it in my book,
Yeah.
Marriage by the
The marriage one, yeah.
Numbers. And Marriage by the Numbers does have a lot of love information in it. It obviously is geared towards weddings and
Yeah.
planning weddings. But there is some, and I was honest that it's not a calculation that I've ever used in a client reading. It's not ever something that I've thought of really for myself. But there is a calculation where you add your life path number to your partner's life path number, and then that gives you your marriage
Oh,
number, which,
interesting. Interesting.
so yeah, so I'm in this one's interesting. My wife and I, oh no. Um, yeah, okay, Stacy's a 5 and I'm an
Mhm.
8, which is
Mhm.
team 4.
Listen.
So, do with that what you will. No, but I see a lot of like the 4 energy in our marriage, meaning like that what are we building together? Like how are we creating a home? Also, what space is always a thing for us. Like, do we have enough physical space? Do we have enough emotional space? Do we have enough psychic space? Like, get out of my brain, you know? So what are we coming to the table with? Like how things feel good when they feel sturdy, and if we feel insecure, things do not feel good. Like, so I do think regardless of whether or not you use this calculation, again, it's all just information, and I think there are ways of working with all of these placements, all of these numbers, all of these tools that can be supportive.
Yeah.
It just, again, depends, like, how are you coming to this? What are you actually looking to get out of this? Yeah, the know thyself is always where I come from. I'm like, this is super helpful for personal meaning making.
It is. It
The
is.
end. Yeah.
And I also want to offer to kind of loop back around to the one of the first things I said about astrology. When people notice patterns in folks around them, whether like exes, former friends, coworkers, bad bosses, that you're like, oh my God, all these people have this placement. Um, there is a particular rising sign that my parents have, that every abusive boss I've ever had has had, but also it's a rising sign that my best friend has and that my agent, my literary agent has. And so I tend to interpret like when there is that kind of recurring story, like with similarities with people around you in your life, I tend to notice both with myself and with clients, it's like they tend to meet someone who's gonna like break that pattern, basically, like whether it's a friend or a romantic interest or whoever, like, which is again where we're not counting people out just because of XYZ. And I think also it's a perpetual reminder that as much as like, for me personally, this particular rising sign, which is also my least favorite rising sign to read for, when I was doing, Meg knows what it is. Like, I'll tell you after we're done, B. But like, I have to like always remind myself that for all the things that are so instinctually activated, because again, both of my parents have this chart set up. So, like, of course, it is such a profound, foundational, instinctive knee jerk against a lot of the things that these people do. Like, I've learned so much about how it can be expressed in more holistic ways, in more healthy ways from my bestie Melissa and my agent Dana. Like, they routinely teach me about the other ways this shows up, and it really helps to take me out of the totalizing black and white. All people with this placement suck. Like, which I am very guilty of, even so, as someone who does this for a living. And they just remind me to take people person by person.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Meg, any
Okay.
other thoughts?
Yeah, maybe a little wrap up cue.
Yeah. I'm thinking.
Um,
Mm.
oh, what?
Sorry, I thought you were asking me, but no, please go ahead.
Oh, I am going to ask you, but I'm going to ask it started with you, but then I'm like, maybe we could all answer
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Like
No, I think we
a
should.
little bit more rapid fire. Like, do you
Mm.
have numbers, uh, planets or placements or
Oh,
cards that are tied to love and relationships for you? And like, what are they? And yeah.
mm.
I mean, the tarot ones are pretty, like, I feel like the tarot ones are like famous. Like, I'm writing through the Suit of Cups this year, and so I think for my newsletter, and so I think that it's going to end up being a lot of relationship stuff, not just like relationships between people, but also like the relationships we have with places, the relationships we have with aspects of ourselves, the relationships we have with spirit, the relationships we have with like creativity or grief or, whatever. Um, but I literally wrote about the Two of Cups for this month because that just is what happened. And so I wrote so much about how this is a card often, even more than the Lovers, I think, that when people see it, they immediately first think of romantic love, or they're like, oh, it's a crush, it's like a spark moment, it's like you're meeting somebody new, it's like there's new vulnerability, it's like you're falling in love, it's like you're gonna get married. Like the Two of Cups has all this shit heaped on it. And I really wrote about the Two of Cups as being so much more about just like what you're opening to and what you're building alongside within yourself and with whatever other thing you're talking about. My toxic trait is I think any card could be a love card depending on what we're talking about, because I'm Mercury and I'm the worst. But I do think that I think it's a lot more interesting to go beyond like Two of Cups and the Lovers as like falling in love cards, because I think that when we're thinking about love as relationship, when we're thinking about love as intimacy and vulnerability, when we're thinking about love about like the ways that we're curious about things and the ways that we feel like really entranced by things or like awestruck by something or someone, I feel like those things show up in so many different ways throughout the tarot. I have come to enjoy and be okay with the Three of Cups as a card of like chosen family and care and like the different ways that relationships can show up and the ways that they change and build. For a long time, the Three of Cups was a tough card for me because I was like craving community and it showed up a lot, and it felt like it was making fun of me. But I feel like I have come to love that card as a love card that feels a little bit more expansive maybe than the Two of Cups, because I feel like the Three of Cups is like it has that like kind of messy outpouring like ability to be vulnerable and be held even in figuring things out, that I think is such a lovely part of not just romantic love but also like platonic love and like the people that we consider our soulmates even if we're not in a romantic partnership with them. So
I think Venus and Mars are the obvious planets that people think of, and especially when we're thinking about things like sexual attraction, sexual desire, romantic impulses. I think that's very founded for those. But the two planets that I usually look at for relationship stuff and readings or what have you, honestly, are the Moon and Mercury. And those are for any kind of relationship, because Mercury is going to tell you about communication. And again, 99% of this shit is communication. So, like, Mercury is going to tell us a lot about how two people do or do not understand each other. And then the other one is the Moon. And the Moon is, again, it's our underbelly, it's everything we're vulnerable about, it's our upbringing, it's childhood shit. And so understanding how someone's moon is working, if it's being transited at a particular time, is just like gonna help us find a lot of compassion and empathy and like how can we be taking care of each other. Yeah.
Well, I have a lot to think about now. Uh, I mean, obviously, two is the number of love and relationships. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very funny when Meg, you were talking and I was thinking about this. I was going to say three as well. Is
yeah.
like very
Yeah.
much a romantic number, but I think three because it gets a little messy and it's like, how do we talk about it? Like where two really encapsulates like the unspoken connection that is very much, that wordless relational piece. Three is like the love confession, the just talk about it. It's not just the conflict. It is also the coming together and expressing love and expressing I want to be with you or expressing I want to be friends with you, or I think we should work together is very three. And there is a vulnerable piece of that for sure. It's three, two might not always put themselves out there in a way that three definitely would put themselves out there. So I think that's interesting. The other number that I think about, well, you can make a case for six for sure. It is connected to the Lovers. It's all about like community and generosity, care, giving, receiving, exchange. But eight is actually a number I think about with love a lot because I think about eight and obsession, and I think about eight and fixation, and I think about eight and yeah, just pleasure and sex and pain and
Hard.
um
Everything you just said about
Yeah.
eight.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah. And so eight might not be the most fun number to work with when you're thinking about love and relationships because there's a depth to it that gets murky and scary. But I think when you're in the pool, if you want to go in the deep end, I think 8 is a really interesting number to think about when it comes to love and relationships.
Yeah, I remember that. I can see that. Because yeah, I think about it as like devotion and discipline, and it's like showing up consistently, which like can be sexy, but also can be just like really necessary in a relationship.
Yeah, like that consistency and that commitment is very much about 8 and strength and saying like what can we together, what are we willing to look in the face
Yeah.
and really get through it. Like there's an endurance quality as well to 8 that I feel like like it when I think about 8, I think of like long-term relationships and I think about mythic relationships, like the Orpheus and Eurydice lovers who like will always be paired together, but it's kind of a tragedy.
Yeah.
Very tragic.
Very much a tragedy. Yeah. But I mean, obviously in their case, yes, a tragedy, but I'm thinking about yeah, like 8 is also the like will they, won't they, on again, off again lovers of like 90s teen dramas, Like what keeps you on the hook, kind of with 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Any last thoughts on love?
So many, but also not enough,
Yeah.
like not eloquently enough. But I think no, I think it's a fun thing to talk about. I'm glad we talked about it, especially
Yeah.
given
I'm
the
glad we gave it so
timing.
much space.
Yeah, especially given the timing with this year, and also just like honestly, low key, what a rocky astrological day Valentine's Day is. On it, like not the most romantic day this year. Most years, it's an Aquarius season. Who fucking decided that Valentine's Day was going to be an Aquarius season? Like again, not to
That's the
say that,
Venus in Aquarius.
but we're not mushy. Like we're not mushy people. So anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no matter what you're doing for Valentine's Day, Galentine's Day,
Sure.
no Valentine's Day, forget that day exists. We are just sending a ton of love from the Coven
Yeah.
to you. And does anyone have anything they want to plug before we say goodbye?
The Grove is open for registration,
Yeah.
so the link is in show notes.
Yeah. If you want to be in relationship with other creative people and deepen your relationship with creativity, that's the whole deal with the
whole
Grove.
thing. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
The whole
it.
thing. So
The Grove is a kind of classic Three of Cups experience, actually.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Beautiful.
really lovely.
Yeah. What about you, B?
Well, topical, if you would like to read some romance, read some sex, come to Smut Club. Our February meeting is on the 19th. It's a Thursday night from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. And then we are also reading Heated Rivalry. So if you've read Heated Rivalry and you just want to come chat about it, please join. Please join our book club. You don't have to like be reading it right now. It's on the final Saturday of the month, so the 28th, I think we like started and ended February on like very specific weekend days. But I think it's the last Saturday of the month, and that'll be from 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific time. So this month you'll get a little bit of a variance between our regular meeting on a Thursday night and our book club meeting on a Saturday. Yeah. Cool.
Alrighty.
We'll be back so soon with March. We'll just keep rolling through the wheel here.
Who is she?
Love you.
Don't know. See ya.